What's the worst thing you've ever done that no one knows about? Story 1. In primary school, when I was about 9 or 10, it was Christmas. We had a class Kris Kringle gift giving where everyone is assigned a random person to give a gift to. The limit I think was $5. The teacher would place gifts under the tree in class whenever someone had brought a gift early, and one day a group of us were under the tree looking at all the presents and comparing the gifts as some of them already had our names on them. We were all laughing and joking around and guessing what each gift could be, and I picked up a small one and was surprised it was addressed to me. I jokingly said, "Look at this little piece of shit," and we all laughed. After school, as I was leaving, a girl who was known to be quite shy and quiet and known never to swear, approached me and asked why I had called the gift a piece of shit. I was blindsided and bewildered and didn't say anything and left. I later realized that she was sticking up for her best friend at the time, who was also quiet and someone I knew cordially, and suspected had a crush on me. I felt absolutely terrible, as I suspected that she also came from a poor background and events like these would have been a strain requiring spare money that they just didn't have. I dreaded the day when we would all open our gifts, because it wasn't a free-for-all. Each person opened their gift in front of the whole class, and it was revealed who had given the gift. I've never felt so undeserving of a gift before. It was a small stationery set I 25 years or so, and it's a core memory, regret from primary school. Rebecca, I'm sorry I said it, and sorry I was too cowardly to apologize to you face to face. Story 2. Threw an ice ball at my friend, missed, and hit this poor deaf girl in the head, knocking her down and destroying her hearing aid. I still feel bad about it 20 years later. Story 3. When I was a kid, we were on the balcony of the local theater and looked down and saw this bald guy right below us. We took a bag of plain M&Ms and crushed them in the bag and used the body heat from our hands to get them somewhat melted. I remember aiming a handful of melted chocolate at the guy's head and letting it go. It looked like he grew instant hair, and we laughed a little at the sight. He spun around, looked up, and we jerked back hoping he hadn't seen us. About halfway through the movie, I took a quick peek over the edge. I didn't see him quick enough, and he launched a half-eaten pickle at me. It caught me square in the eye. Pickle juice went all over my face, and my eye burned like hell. He started cracking up, and so did my friends. Took me the rest of the movie to get all the shit out of my eye. Lesson learned. Story 4. When I was 8, I got into my best friend's oldest sister's contact lens case and was so curious about how they felt, and I ripped them apart. I didn't actually realize they were contacts. And when she came and screening, I didn't say anything. I still don't know what happened, but I feel really bad because her parents were not well off. I'm sure those were cheap. Oh, I even tried finding the family several years later when I was an adult to pay them back, but they seemed to have dropped out of existence. And to the family who was camping near us on a family camping trip, and who put several 6-packs of soda in the river to chill, and 3-year-old me came upon them thinking that the soda fairy had arrived to make me happy, and I opened probably 16 cans before anyone stopped me. I'm really sorry, dudes. Story 5. 11 years ago, I had a nosebleed as I was kissing a girl. Neither of us noticed until we had my blood smeared on both our faces. Words cannot approach how awful and devastated I felt. She dry heaved and cried silently as I drove her home, and then I never heard from her again. I am so sorry. See. Story 6. I told my grandmother she was dying, unaware that she didn't know. I knew she had cancer, and my mother told me the doctors had given her a year or so, but not longer than that. I was talking with her on the phone not long after hearing she was sick, and in an attempt to raise her spirits, told her that I didn't believe what the doctors said and knew she'd be feeling better soon. There was a long pause, and then a soft ... What from the other end? Nobody had told her. I guess the family were trying to protect her or something, but apparently decided not to tell her. She knew she had cancer, but was kept in the dark about how serious it was. I guess it was their strategy to keep her strong. And I ruined it. She'd passed a few months later. I kept waiting for the inevitable slaughter to come when Grandma asked why nobody had told her, but it never came. I don't know if she kept it to herself or the rest of the family decided not to berate me, but nothing happened. I still feel shitty about that. I didn't know everyone was keeping her in the dark, but still, what a blunder. And I still have the apprehension of not knowing if anyone else knows what I did. Story 7. I used to live at the back end of a school. Every year they would have a treasure hunt with clues to a location, where there was a clue to another location, and so on. I noticed that they placed a clue on an old tree stump near my fence. I stole and disposed of the clue, and then sat on my back deck watching a pile-up of school kids looking around for the clue. The pile grew bigger and bigger to the point it seemed half the school was back there hunting in the grass and the bushes for the clue that was no longer there. Story 8. When I was a kid in the 90s, my parents got divorced, and I was asked which parent I wanted to live with, and without any thought to any feelings, I just said my dad. What can I say? It was my young boy impulse. Not that my dad isn't great, but I was definitely not thinking about my mom's feelings, or how she might have felt to just instantly be shut down. Anyway, one thing I got really into was the Animorphs book series. I was super obsessed with reading it all throughout my childhood, and I was really into Animorphs. Every time a new book would come out, I would beg my mom to buy it, mostly because my dad was always straining to pay for everything and would usually tell me no. Well, one weekend I was staying at my mom's, and I woke up and heard my mom crying on the phone with someone in the other room. So being the little shit I was, I decided to eavesdrop. I don't know who she was talking to, but she sounded miserable, and she was talking about how she was pretty sure the only reason I even wanted to see her was so she would buy books. I could tell she was crying and pretty sad. It rocked me. I felt so terrible. I'm not gonna say I never asked her for a book again, but I definitely cut way back on it and would only ask once in a while, and tried to just be more into the moment when I was with her. It's been like 25 plus years now, but I still cringe thinking about it. She never expressed anything like that to me, and I've never talked to her about overhearing her in that moment. Story 9. I jerked off in an airport bathroom on Adderall in the handicapped stall for like an hour, and then I realized a guy in a wheelchair had to force himself to use the small stall when I heard him struggling. Go get in it. Story 10. About 15 years ago, my dad called me, and I rushed him off the phone because I had work in an hour. I'd never heard him sound so small and so hopeless. Sounded like he was crying. But our relationship was estranged, and he had treated me poorly when I was young, so we didn't talk much in general. He killed himself that day. I should have known, but I was young and selfish and angry. To be honest, I've been going through the motions every day since then. Destroyed my relationship, moved 3,000 miles from home, don't talk to my family much. I always told myself I wouldn't be like him, but the only difference is I chose not to have children to break the cycle. I'm lonely, aging, and have nothing to look forward to besides work and sitting at home. Story 11. Had a friend spike another friend with laxatives during their birthday. The prankster was laughing his ass off about it in retrospect. I then said passively, God, I'd have been so fucking pissed if I had my birthday ruined by having to stay in the bathroom for half of it. While Cross faded out of my mind, he agreed, got awkward, and now denies doing it. It's like he never even stopped to think about the action until we talked about it afterwards. Pretty sure he has genuinely apologized, and there's no friction in the friendship now, but still, yikes. Story 12. When I was dating around, I chatted with this one girl for a couple of weeks. She seemed like a really nice girl, although a bit unstable. We talked about meeting up sometime, but she was stalling for some reason, so my interest dwindled a bit. I had some options, so I somehow missed this long message I received. It said a lot of things, but in a very brief summary, it went something like this: I really like you and want to meet up, but my mental health isn't the best because of my ex. It's not something I tell anyone, and I'm seeing a psychologist about it, and I'm getting better. If you still want to be with me knowing this, I would really like to go on a date. When she sent it, I must have just opened her message, realized it was really long, closed it thinking I'd answer later, and then somehow just forgot to read it. A week or so later, I wondered why she had been so quiet and thought I'd reach out. I then saw and read her message. I unknowingly ghosted her right after she told me about something she probably never told anyone like me before. Felt like the asshole I was for a long time. Story 13. This is something that has always eaten away at me. When I was around 14 years old, I was in my living room just casually having a conversation with my parents and older brother. A bit of background on my dad: he had polio when he was a young boy, which led to him having slightly deformed feet. Now that night, we started talking about how large my dad's family is and about how he was the youngest in his family, being the 13th child. My brother followed that up with a comment about 13 being an unlucky number. In an effort to make a joke, I blurted out that's why he has a crooked foot, and unfortunately my brother laughed. I immediately saw my dad's face fall, and he excused himself. He never brought it up, and I was too ashamed to apologize. My mom told me years later that my dad cried that night and expressed that he expected that people would make fun of him for his feet, but he never expected his own kids to. That really taught me the weight of words and is something I hang on to this day. I'm sorry, Dad. Story 14. When I was 13 on my first rehab stint, I snuck a bunch of Adderall and Xanax into the facility. After a few days of testing the waters to see if my roommates weren't going to snitch, I started to offer them some. I guess I didn't want to get high alone. Fast forward 3 nights later. We had all stayed up all night and it was around 4 a.m. We literally snorted every single pull I had snuck in between the 4 of us. It was around 150 to 200 milligrams of Adderall each, and probably 3 to 4 milligrams of Xanax each. I'm just trying to give perspective to how fucked up I had gotten these other kids who were there to get clean. One of my roomies asked my other roomie if he could wear his sweatshirt to go use the bathroom. We weren't allowed in the common area or bathrooms without being fully clothed. About 10 minutes go by, and we start to wonder why he hasn't come back yet, and I get up to go check on him. As I come to the corner of the room entrance, I hear a staff member screaming, "Help me, somebody fucking help me." He was hanging in the bathroom by the sweatshirt that he'd borrowed from my other roomie. A second staff member rushed into the bathroom to help lift him while the other loosened and untied the hoodie from his neck. He was purple. I was sure that he was dead. They set him down and started tapping him on the chest and started getting ready to do CPR on him. When the color returned to his face, and then he literally sprung up so fast, it scared the shit out of all of us. He rushed out of the bathroom and started screaming, "Why wouldn't you just let me fucking die?" He was coughing up blood and punching himself in the face. The paramedics came and took him to the hospital. and then eventually to the mental hospital. I think about him often. I always felt like it was my fault. I gave him drugs, which in turn made him impulsive. Maybe he felt guilty about breaking his clean streak. I don't truly know. I felt responsible for the entire situation for over 10 years and carried that guilt with me everywhere I went. I finally got therapy around 3 years ago. It took me 2 years to muster up the courage to tell my therapist about this. I hope he's doing well. I always wonder what his life looks like now if he's alive, where he might live. It's so weird how someone can have such a significant impact on your life, and then you just never see them again.
That's all for now. Thanks for listening to Digital Apathy.